I never thought I'd be writing this, but I can't carry it alone anymore. I'm 38, married for 12 years to a woman I still love. After her illness and the surgeries, our bedroom has been dead for almost 3 years. Every night I lie beside her, feeling invisible, unwanted, quietly dying inside while she turns away in her sleep. The silence between us stretches longer than the years we once shared. I tell myself I'm patient, I'm loyal, but some nights the ache is so deep it feels like I'm disappearing. Then Elena moved in, 62, still elegant in that quiet, mature way that age only seems to soften into something deeper. She came to help during my wife's long recovery, and suddenly the house felt smaller, warmer. Every morning I'd find her in the kitchen, silk robe slipping slightly at the shoulder as she poured coffee. The scent of lavender would drift toward me before I even stepped fully into the room. I'd pause in the doorway, watching the way the morning light caught the silver in her hair, and something inside me would stir, something I hadn't felt in years. At first it was innocent. Shared breakfasts where our fingers brushed, reaching for the same mug, helping with laundry, folding sheets together in the narrow utility room, her body so close I could feel the warmth radiating through her thin robe. Late-night talks while my wife slept upstairs, the two of us sitting on the couch with only the low glow of a lamp between us. I told myself it was just gratitude. She was family. She was helping. Nothing more, but every time she brushed past me in the hallway, her soft lavender scent would linger on my shirt for hours. I'd catch myself pressing the fabric closer to my face later, breathing it in like a secret. My pulse would quicken in ways it hadn't for so long. I'd stand there alone, heart hammering, whispering to the empty air that this was wrong, yet I couldn't stop inhaling that trace of her. The days blurred into a slow, dangerous rhythm. Mornings she'd hum softly while making toast, the sound wrapping around me like an old melody I didn't know I missed. Evenings she'd sit across from me at the table, robe tied loosely, asking about my day with that gentle, knowing smile. Her eyes held mine a moment longer than they should. I'd feel the pull, that invisible gravity drawing me toward her warmth, her calm, her alevines. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just comfort in a house that had grown cold. Just people sharing space while life felt heavy, but deep down I knew the truth. Each small proximity chipped away at the walls it built, her hand resting lightly on my arm when she laughed at something I said, the way her robe would shift when she reached for a glass, revealing the soft curve of her collarbone, the quiet sound of her breathing when the house fell silent at night. And then one evening, as I stood washing dishes, she came up behind me to place a plate in the sink. Her body pressed lightly against my back for the briefest second, not enough to call it anything, yet enough to make my breath catch. Heat flooded through me so fast I nearly dropped the glass. She murmured, "Sorry, the space is so tight," but she didn't move away immediately. Her lavender scent enveloped me completely. I stood frozen, heart racing, every inch of me aware of how close she was, how easy it would be to turn around. I didn't turn. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. That night I lay awake beside my sleeping wife, Elena's scent still clinging faintly to my clothes, and the ache returned stronger than before. She was my wife's mother. This was impossible, forbidden in every way that mattered. Yet the hunger was growing, quiet and relentless, pulling me toward her like a tide I couldn't fight, and the worst part, I wanted to fight it anymore. I fought it with everything I had. In the shower, water beating against my skin, I'd press my forehead to the cold tiles and whisper the same words over and over and over. "She's your wife's mother. This is sick. You're disgusting for even letting the thought cross your mind." The guilt burned hot in my chest, but somehow it only sharpened the ache, made it throb deeper, like a wound that refused to close. Struggling with the zipper of her dress before a doctor's appointment. The fabric hugged her frame in a way that felt too intimate for family. "Could you help me, dear?" she asked softly, her voice carrying that gentle patience I'd come to crave. My fingers brushed the warm skin at the nape of her neck as I pulled the zipper up. He trushed through me, so fast I yanked my hand away like it touched fire. She turned, eyes searching mine for a second too long, and I mumbled something about needing fresh air before bolting outside, heart slamming against my ribs. The micro-moments kept coming, each one chipping away at whatever resolve I still pretended to have. Her hand would rest on my shoulder while we watched the evening news, fingers lingering just a breath longer than necessary, the warmth seeping through my shirt until I forgot how to sit still. Late at night she'd bring me tea in that thin nightgown. One shoulder slipping down without her noticing, revealing the soft line of her collarbone glowing faintly in the lamplight. I'd look away, but not fast enough. The image stayed with me for hours. In the garden one afternoon she hummed an old love song while tending the roses, the melody drifting through the open window like a memory I didn't know I was missing. It wrapped around me, slow and sweet, stirring something restless low in my belly. I stood at the sink, gripping the edge until my knuckles whitened, telling myself it was just a song, just nostalgia, nothing more. Yet my pulse quickened with every note, as if her voice was pulling me toward an edge I couldn't see. Dreams started invading my sleep. In them it was Elena's body beneath mine instead of my wife's, her eyes half closed in quiet surrender, the scent of lavender thick in the air. I'd wake gasping, hardened, ashamed, staring at the dark ceiling while my wife breathed softly beside me. What kind of man was I becoming? The question echoed in my head, heavy with self-loathing, but the obsession grew faster than the shame could keep up. It felt like drowning in slow motion, water rising inch by inch, and I kept telling myself I could still swim to shore if I tried hard enough. I'd catch myself in the mirror after these nights, searching my own eyes for the decent husband I used to be. He was fading, every innocent brush of her arm against mine in the narrow kitchen, every quiet goodnight that lingered like an invitation I imagined, every moment her robe shifted and the air carried that faint lavender warmth, they all fed the hunger I was terrified to name. I wanted to stop. God, I needed to stop. But the pull was becoming gravitational, inevitable, drawing me closer every single day. Last night, after another dream left me trembling, I slipped downstairs for water and found her in the living room, unable to sleep either. She looked up from her book, that knowing half-smile on her lips, and for one suspended heartbeat neither of us spoke. The space between us felt charged, humming with everything we weren't saying. I almost stepped closer, almost reached out. The air grew thick, my breath shallow. The storm rolled in hard that night, rain lashing the windows like it knew what we were about to do. My wife had taken her pills early, eyes heavy, voice already drifting as she murmured goodnight and slipped under the covers upstairs. The house felt too quiet after that, just the low rumble of thunder and my own restless steps carrying me downstairs. Elena was already there on the couch, a thin blanket draped over her lap, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep either," she whispered when I paused in the doorway. Her voice was soft, worn around the edges with the same kind of lonely ache I'd been carrying for years. I sat down, not too close, but close enough that the warmth of her body reached me through the space between us. We talked about nothing at first, the weather, the garden, how quiet the nights had become. Then the words turned heavier. She spoke of years stretching empty after her husband passed, of lying awake wondering if anyone would ever look at her the way she once felt seen. I told her how my wife's illness had slowly taken pieces of us both, how touch had become careful, distant, almost polite. Her fingers brushed mine on the cushion. Just that, skin against skin, warm and tentative. My breath caught. Before I could pull away, before the shame could scream loud enough, I turned and drew her closer. Our mouths met in the dark, deep and hungry, years of quiet frustration pouring out like the rain outside. She didn't pull back. Instead, her hand rose to my cheek, trembling slightly, holding me there as if afraid it'd vanish. That kiss tasted like surrender and stolen time, thunder rolling through us both. When we finally broke apart, foreheads still touching, her eyes were wide, glistening. We shouldn't, she breathed, but her fingers stayed curled in my shirt. We couldn't stop after that. The next days blurred into secret gravity. In the kitchen, while my wife rested upstairs, Elena would reach past me for a cup, her body pressing lightly against my back for one heartbeat too long. The scent of lavender lotion on her skin mixed with the coffee steam, making my pulse stutter. It'd turn, and our eyes would lock, the air thick with everything we didn't dare say aloud. One stolen afternoon, when the house was still and my wife napped deeply, we slipped into the guest room. The door clicked shut behind us like a secret locking in place. There, time slowed. Her hands moved with quiet confidence, experienced and gentle in ways that made me feel truly wanted for the first time in a decade. She whispered against my neck that no one had desired her like this in 20 years, her voice breaking on the words. I held her close, every slow touch feeling like coming back to life, tender and passionate, the kind of closeness my marriage had lost somewhere along the way. Nights in that same room became our hidden world. She gave herself over completely, eyes half-lidded with a hunger that mirrored my own. The way she looked at me, God, it undid me. Her skin carried that faint lavender warmth, familiar yet electrifying now in this new context. We moved together like two people drowning who finally found air, careful not to make a sound that could drift upstairs. Afterward, she'd rest her head on my chest, fingers tracing lazy circles, murmuring how alive she felt again. I felt it too, that spark I thought had died out years ago. And the weight of what had done would press down until I could barely breathe. Yet the craving for those hidden moments grew stronger. I started living for the brush of Elena's hand when we passed in the hallway, for the way her eyes would soften with real longing when no one else was looking. Her experienced touch, the quiet intensity she brought to every stolen second, the scent of her lotion lingering on my clothes long after it became my new normal. I'd pretend everything was fine when I went upstairs, smiling at my wife, helping with her medications, all while my mind replayed the feel of Elena's warmth against me. I hated myself for it. I loved it more. One evening after another quiet surrender in the guest room, as we lay angled in the sheets catching our breath, Elena turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is dangerous, but I don't want to stop." Her fingers tightened on mine, eyes searching my face with that same vulnerable hunger. Outside, another storm was building, wind rattling the panes. I opened my mouth to answer, heart pounding with the truth I couldn't yet speak when we both froze at the faint creak of floorboards upstairs. My wife was moving. Last week, my wife came downstairs unexpectedly during one of those quiet afternoons. The house had been heavy with silence, the kind that wraps around secrets. Elena and I were in the living room, not even touching, just standing a breath apart by the window. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes still carrying that soft glow from moments earlier when our hands had brushed too long over a shared glass of water. Nothing obvious. But my wife paused on the stairs, her gaze flicking between us, lingering on Elena's face, that guilty, alive light she couldn't quite hide. That night the air in our bedroom felt suffocating. My wife turned to me in the dark, her voice small and trembling. "Is something going on? Between you and Mom?" I lied. The words slipped out smooth, practiced, but they tasted like ash on my tongue, bitter and dry. I told her it was nothing, just family closeness, that we were all adjusting to her being bedridden so much. She nodded slowly, but her eyes, God, her eyes held a quiet hurt that carved into me deeper than any accusation could. Now every room echoes with that unspoken question. Footsteps upstairs make my stomach drop. Shared meals feel like walking a tightrope. Smiles forced, conversations clipped. I lie awake every night since, staring at the ceiling while my wife's breathing stays even beside me. Elena's lavender scent still clings faintly to my pillow from that last afternoon, warm and haunting, pulling me under even as guilt crashes over like waves. I replay the way she looked when she finally let herself go in my arms. That pure, trembling release neither of us had known in years, her breath catching soft against my shoulder, body melting into mine with a trust that felt like coming home after endless wandering. Our marriage cracking wide open, the family fracturing into pieces would never mend, Elena left carrying her own quiet shame, my wife broken in ways no medicine could fix. The thought twists like a knife, leaving me breathless, chest tight with the weight of what I'm risking. Yet, when I close my eyes, it's Elena's face I see, the way her fingers trembled just before that surrender, the faint-old love song humming from the radio in the background as we moved together so carefully, silk of her nightgown whispering against my skin like a secret promise. That hunger in her eyes, mirroring the ache it buried so long it awakened something in me I thought was gone forever. The storm inside refuses to quiet. Part of me screams to stop before the walls come down, to choose the safe path, the right one, the life we promised each other. But the other part, the one that feels truly seen again, alive in ways my marriage can no longer reach, it clings desperately, craving one more stolen glance, one more moment where gravity pulls us close without words. I don't know if I can stop. Part of me wants to do the right thing and end it before everything explodes. But another part, the part that finally feels wanted again, never wants to let her go. Be honest with me. If you were in my place, living with a wife who can't give you what you need and a mother-in-law who suddenly can, would you stop? Or would you keep going? Drop your thoughts in the comments, tell me if I'm wrong for feeling this way. If this hit you, like and subscribe for the next part where I reveal exactly what happened when my wife confronted us directly. I'm scared, but I'm also more turned on than I've been in years. See you in the next confession.